here at MJBizCon 2019. I'm with Erich Mauff. He is the president of Jushi. Thanks for coming by.
Oh, good to be here. Come on.
Well, it's pretty good. Hey, let's spend a week in Las Vegas talking about weed.
That works.
Yeah, it works for me.
That works really well for me.
You know, it's funny though, like I was thinking about it. The run of the show has been, I think, 7 or 8 years.
Okay.
Cannabis has not been legal those years in Nevada. This would be a different conference, I would imagine, without that trip to like Planet 13 to start the show.
I agree with you. It was a great way to start the show.
There's a lot of people with their bags left in the cab, run in, run out, get busy.
Doesn't make them a bad man or woman.
No, it makes them smart, actually. You need that between the distance between all the places in Las Vegas to get from one to the other.
Yeah, it does.
So I want to talk about Jushi. You're an MSO, multi-state operator. Tell us about the sort of origin story of Jushi and where you are today.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty interesting story. My partner and I were both retired. We were investing our own money. We were looking up in Canada. We saw what was happening with the Canadian companies that were looking to enter into the market up there. Started investing early, made some good money. And about 16, we started thinking, this is realistically going to happen in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2017, we spent a fair amount of time trying to think through where to play in the sector, where to invest in the sector, and we came up with that kind of a relatively simple, but still very relevant thesis today, which is, one, I talk about the elephant and the keyhole, which is, the keyhole is the amount of available capital. Because if you think about this, we're in a crazy industry. If anyone were to say, I'm going to build an industry, but I got some news for you. Why don't we eliminate banks, insurance companies, asset managers, state funds, or in fact, almost every traditional form of capital, and then go and build a $20 to $50 billion industry? You would find out that you're going to run into real capital constraints. Mm-hmm. And so we always thought that this was a hugely capital constrained industry. And I talk about the elephant and the keyhole because the elephant keeps growing. So when Illinois flips, it needs more dispensaries, more cultivation, more extraction. If New York or New Jersey or Pennsylvania flip, the elephant keeps growing, but the keyhole
doesn't get bigger.
So we always thought like we have our own capital, we know how to raise capital, and we thought now how to allocate capital smartly, because I think in a capital constrained world, as we are seeing right now,
you better place the right bets.
And if you better not overspend, because if the capital markets close, which they've done now, that's going to be a tough place to get capital. And then we just thought it was a fun industry. We were like, come on, man, we kind of old guys. Let's get out there and do something and have a lot of fun and put our skill set to work. And we've partnered with a great bunch of people, like the team out of the clinic out of Colorado, been operating for a decade, really know it. Mm-hmm. So it was a mixture of industry veterans that we really thought knew what they were doing, and financial guys that had been around the block and thought they could raise money and allocate capital. And here we are at MJBiz 2019, and I'm a multi-state operator with businesses in Virginia, 15 stores in PA. I got extraction and processing in Ohio. I got retail in Illinois. I got extraction and manufacturing as well as cultivation here in Vegas. And we got 4 prime location stores in California. So it's just a beautiful thing.
That doesn't sound like any fun.
No, not at all.
When you look back at when you sort of started, and I don't know what year it was, but did you think this is where you'd be now?
I think the thesis that we had that this was a capital constrained environment has held. I'd say what we've done is we've kind of focused on the markets we want to be in. The way I think of it is we got 3 huge focus markets. Clearly Virginia, we want a 5. That's a big build, vertically integrated, a lot of time, money, and effort. We've got the full store count that you're legally allowed in the state of Pennsylvania, which is great. So 15, building those out. And California is a big part of where we're going after. We love California. We're distressed guys. So complicated messes tend to be places we like to operate. 42 million people, if you can get some great stores in California and you can operate them well, we think that's a winning business strategy.
Yeah.
And then we got places that we really like, but we haven't really committed a lot of capital yet, which is we like Ohio, we like Illinois, and we like Las Vegas.
Yeah.
We like Nevada, I should say, but it's all good. I really like Las Vegas, by the way.
Particularly
it's
not the Reno part.
No, I like Vegas.
Well, I do too. I like this show, and I like what you're doing, and I like the passion and the focus, and the fun part too. I mean, in many aspects. I mean, there's a whole medicinal part, of course, but as we talk about adult use recreational cannabis, it is a fun product. People do like it. They will buy it at scale.
They will, and you know what's interesting? Like, one of our first acquisitions was actually, we partnered with a very well-known neurologist who has done, and he's out of Buffalo, New York. He's got over almost 10,000 patients that he has treated. Has the largest cannabis clinic in the world. His name's Dr. Laszlo Metzler. Dr. Metzler is an amazing human being. He believes, started off as a skeptic, and 5 years later believes that this has really got its place as a alternative a form of medication. It's not a panacea,
right,
but there are a lot of people that this really works for, and so we're pretty committed to the medical side of it for a simple reason. As you get older, which I know it's hard to believe, but I have aged.
Not since you've been here, I hope.
No, well,
it hasn't been that long. It
hasn't been that bad an interview. But no, it's when you think about this, it's just fantastic to be able to take for myself. I'll give you an example. When I travel, I don't sleep great. I used to take Ambien. Now a 50-50 CBD THC mix an hour before sleep, and I sleep real well, and I don't have that horrible Ambien morning after feeling. So I think there's CBD for your feet, for your hands, for pain. And from the rec side, it's got no calories, and if you think about that over time, that could be a real big thing for people to do, and doesn't destroy your liver like alcohol does. So we really think it's got it's got a really big place in what I call your daily wellness regime.
Yeah,
that's a good word.
Daily
wellness regime.
You should make a brand out of that. We could set up a booth next year.
Absolutely.
Well, I've enjoyed talking to you. I hope we can connect as we flip into 2020, but it's 2020 I want to actually ask you about. So we'll be here next year, sitting in these same chairs, maybe a different backdrop of Canada. What do you think we'll be talking about next MJBizCon?
I'm going to take a flyer.
Okay, go ahead.
I think we are going to have an explosive election period in the United States, and I think there is a 33 to 40% chance that during that tumultuous period, both sides of the aisle kind of commit to decriminalization, and I think this could be a very different environment next year.
Yeah.
I think we could be a lot further down the path towards a kind of what I call federal normalization. Decriminalization of cannabis. I think we could be in an incredibly robust place, which is not how it feels now. But what I say is the markets are terrible.
Yes.
Funding is hard to get, but the fundamentals are better than they've ever been.
Yeah. And
let me run you through a statistic. So once Illinois flips, 25% of the U.S. population lives in a state that has adult use.
Yep.
If you then had to flip New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania, you'd be just over 40%. You just need Florida to flip.
And the rest of it.
And half of the country lives in states where cannabis is sold to anyone over the age of 21 years.
Well, it's interesting. The way you just talked through the country, through the lens of legalization, but it's also kind of how CNN runs through an election. And it's actually the same states. And this is actually interesting, and it comes up the other point. Like, there's going to be a point where people are in a sort of strategy session on all the campaigns saying, how do we flip Florida? From a political perspective, is this the thing that flips it? Do we get 1 or 2%?
Can I give you what I say to people is, I believe that like abortion is a tough topic to flip on. Either pro-life or pro-choice. It's that simple. Yeah. But cannabis is very interesting. You as a conservative candidate can say, I don't believe anyone should do cannabis. I don't think it's good for you.
Right.
Okay. But I also don't believe that we should be incarcerating people at a disproportionate amount because of possession of small amounts of cannabis.
Yeah.
Number two, why don't we allow our population to elect if it wants to or does not want to consume the product? Let's test it and make it safe for the environment and tax it. Yeah. I think you can flip and not flip.
Yeah.
You can maintain your moral integrity that you don't think people should do cannabis, but you can say, if you elect to, let's make it safe, let's make it regulated, and let's create jobs and tax revenue.
Yeah. It's interesting because we've had this conversation certainly in Canada on the broader scale, on a national conversation, and the argument that I like to talk about is you can disagree with the policy of legalization, sure, But you cannot disagree. What is a fact is that the last policy wasn't working to do anything. It wasn't keeping it out of the hands of kids. It wasn't keeping it out of the hands of organized crime. It wasn't doing any of those things.
It wasn't keeping you safe.
It wasn't doing anything.
I mean,
it was just an illegal product you could buy on the street. That was all it was doing. And the way you can stop that from happening, or at least start to take chunks out of it, is to legalize it, regulate it, tax it, all those things. And that's what I think all those states you just talked about, I think they're having that conversation. I think the politics of it will move the policy of it in some respects. And I think you're right. Next year at this time, we'll be talking about a cataclysmic change in the U.S., which will have ramifications for everybody, but mostly for the good for people operating in the States.
No, I really do believe that. So I think we are, sometimes when at the worst of times, you don't see that the best of times are coming.
Yeah.
Or the other way around, by the way.
That's right. Unfortunately, that's true too. But it seems like it's right there. I mean, we're talking about a year from, not even.
Yeah, and if you think of those election states that I was talking about, I mean, I think New Jersey just announced that it's going to put cannabis on the ballot, and these ballot initiatives are being won more and more in a very large majority. And if you think about our election, we had two candidates, neither got 50%.
Right.
I'm just saying.
You don't need to move that many people.
And so when you have states that are voting 55, 60, 65% in favor of legalization, and those are very difficult for politicians to take an alternative view to what 2/3 of their constituency is saying.
About anything, but certainly about cannabis.
And again, because you can flip by saying, I don't believe in the legalization, I believe in decriminalization.
Yeah, I like it. Eric, I really appreciate you stopping by. It's been a great conversation.
It's been great to be here.
I hope it's the first, but not the last.
No.
Because I think there's lots of things to talk about what you're doing. And we look forward to connecting with you in 2020.
Yeah, and enjoy the rest of your time
visit
out
in
here.
Las Vegas. I will. Believe me, I will. It's pretty enjoyable.
Good, that's a great place. Thank you.